on the 5th of September. Yes. Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the meeting of the Scrutiny Performance Committee. Could I ask everyone to note the safety instructions? There are no planned fire drills tonight. If, however, the alarm goes off, please use the fire exit through the main doors of the hall or the fire exit in the storeroom adjacent to the stage. The fire assembly point is the island in front of the main entrance of the building. Please do not delay your evacuation to collect any belongings. Please do not return to the building until given permission to do so by the council staff. I would also like to remind you to please switch off your mobile phone or turn them onto silent. Please note the meeting will be live streamed where the proceedings are capable of repeated viewing. Please ensure your microphones are switched on when speaking and you speak clearly into the microphone. Once finished speaking, can you please switch off your microphone to avoid feedback noise? If you are seated in the public area of the chamber, it is likely that your image will be captured by the recording cameras and result in your image being part of the broadcast. If members are for any reason not present for the whole debate on the item, you will not be allowed to vote on that item. May I remind members to declare any interests and the nature of the interest at the beginning of an agenda item, and that's on declaring a pecuniary interest. You are required to leave the room when that item of business is considered. Item 1, apologies of absence and substitute members. We have apologies of absence from Councillor Bob Milne and Councillor John McPherson, and no substitute members. Non-members in attendance, we have Councillor Angela Maria and Councillor Phil Shaw. Minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of July 2024. Are the minutes agreed, members? Agreed. Item 4, to receive declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interests? Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Chairman. Non-pecuniary interest. I'm an Essex County Councillor.
Thank you. Any others? No. Public questions on notice. We have no public questions on notice for tonight. Item 6. Process to consider item to be added to the forward plan for the Scrutiny and Performance Committee. Members, we will now consider the report of the Director of Policy and Transformation presenting a proposal to establish a process that will enable the Scrutiny and Performance Committee to consider and determine the items that are placed on the committee's forward plan. Mr. Campbell, do you have anything to add to the report?
Thank you, Chair. Evening, members. Nothing really further to add. It's just providing a process that you as a committee can consider items coming forward in a structured manner with all the information that you need to determine whether it should be added to the forward plan of your work for this committee moving forward. That is it. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, members.
Members, are there any questions? Councillor Webb.
Thank you, Chairman. It's just to ask, at the previous meeting as a committee, we looked at a number of items that we'd like to come before this committee here. Could I just check when we'll see the work plan for those items for the next municipal year, please? Thank you.
Councillor, Greg.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, there were some items coming forward. Obviously, this process is coming in now after those items come forward. I've been in liaison with the department that looks after them. They're going to be liaising with the officers and identifying when they should come forward for this committee to consider. So they will appear on the next forward plan coming to this committee. We'll be asking the officers to identify when they can become reports or if they can update this committee at that point.
Any other questions, members? No, I've got a couple. Right. Will there be paper copies of this form if members can't get online or something like that?
Thank you, Chair. I think it's going to be online, so it should be able to be downloaded and filled in online and sent through. If there is an issue with that, then we'll make sure that you'll contact probably the corporate services and actually ask them if they can forward you a copy. I would have thought, rather than I suppose where would they be stored? So I think on request we can do that. They come to you, then they'd have to be sent back or dropped back in. It's not an issue, but if it happens, not a problem.
Okay, next one. This is going to be filled in beforehand, and it's going to be considered by officer and chairman to be put on the agenda. So when would be a good time? What sort of lead time would it need?
To get it onto the committee, I think is if you think the committee goes out, I'm looking across at the table about a week before. Is that 5 working days? So 5 working days before that, to give the officer and the chair some time to consider it, make sure everything's in place. At least 3 or 4 days to go before the officer, at least, I would have thought. Depends really sometimes how big the request is. If it's something small, or I don't mean small, but something you can get to, but if it's something quite large and you think, actually, I need to have a think about what we're going to do, it may take a bit longer. So I wouldn't like to put a hard timeline, but if it goes to the chair and the officer 5 days before it's going to be published, because they don't need to write a report, it is just the form coming forward along with the forward plan for officers to members to consider, then I would have thought 5 working days for many of them would be okay.
Okay, thank you. So just one more. On the actual form, what it says on there, indications of success, what factors would indicate that the review has been successful? It's a little bit difficult to put that on the form before the actual has gone to.
Thanks, Chair. I think what we're looking for is actually if you want it, so if you're asking a question, you're asking something to happen, is it the factors coming out is a report goes to committee to consider, because we can't actually determine the answer from that report, or it may be actually you want some statistics to come forward that haven't been provided before. So actually what you're looking for, the determinants of success is, say, for example, let's pick on Stephanie Meek because she's right next to me, but asking her service to provide detailed description of the performance measures for the last 4 years. And the success would be the provision of that data.
Right, so the success criteria is the information gathered to scrutinise, not the end of the scrutiny. Okay,
Absolutely.
thanks. Any other questions after that? No? Okay. Right. Members, I will now move a motion that recommendation 1 be approved. Can I have a seconder, please? I think Councillor Shaw just beat you, Councillor Webb.
Like lightning there, wasn't she?
Yeah. We will now vote on the recommendation to agree the process to enable items to be added to the forward plan and to adopt the request template attached in Appendix 1. We will vote on a show of hands. Members for? I think that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Move on to the next item. Item 7, customer promise. Members, we will now consider the report of the Director of Customer and Data Insight, seeking committee's view on the proposal of a new customer promise for Rochford District Council, which sets expectations for all interactions between the council, our residents and customers. Mrs. Meek, do you have anything to add to the report?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing to add. That pretty much summed it up. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Members, this report seeks feedback and recommendations to the Strategy, Finance and Policy Committee on the proposed customer promise as set out in the Appendix 1. Are there any questions or comments? No. Again, I've got a couple. Okay, this is one of my pet peeves where we call our residents customers. I'd like to change the report to a residents promise, because customers implies that you've got a choice of where you pay your council tax and where you get your services from. As residents, we know we don't actually get a choice. We live in the district. So I'd like to make that as a amendment, so that we'd have to vote on. Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, on page 7.7, our service standards. When South Street closes and we go to the library, will we be able to do what it says? You know, when you visit us and need to pass your query on, can we guarantee that will be done within 3 working days? Because, you know, it's very hit and miss at the library. And will there be somewhere at the library that someone can come in and speak to someone confidentially? Because we don't want to go over to the launch pad when they can't actually drive because there's no bus services there or anything.
Ms Meek.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. You're referring to a residence at, with that question, sorry, or?
Or anyone that comes, sorry. Anyone that comes into the council, and it usually is residents, that want to speak to someone or has a query, wants to pass it on, can we guarantee that will be done? Because we're now moving to the library, and I don't know what the hours are going to be there at the library. So if they come in and it is the library staff, so you finish, I really can't remember, because you're not going to be there 9 to 5 at the library. So if someone comes in, where do those documents go to get back to the council staff?
Ms Meek.
Thank you. To answer your question, there will be the same provision that we have at the moment. We will have staff operating at the library during those same hours. So we will be able to respond as we have said we would. Thank you.
Any more questions from members? No? I've got just a couple of other ones. On 2.3, we promised to be open, honest. It does mention transparent further on in the report, but I think transparent should be in there as well.
Yeah.
Okay, where we promised to, again, on 2.3, it says, it says to what documentation, it goes on a little bit further on in the report, but it doesn't actually say what documentation is needed from residents. It'd be like if you go and get a passport, it says you need marriage certificate or birth certificate. So it gives you information before, instead of someone just phoning up and having to go and find stuff, that might publish what they need for each one. Speak.
Thank you. I think in that context, it would be quite a lengthy list for dependent on what service it might be, but I'd definitely, yeah, take your point that it's quite broad in the term of documentation. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, 2.6, to further embed the promise, it's supposed that the correct service standards are published on all necessary platforms such as website, online forms and emails. I have an auto reply. Is there going to be any provision for paper? Because a lot of my residents on Foulness are not even got internet.
So sorry, you're referring to anybody that writes into us with letters?
No, this is to further embed the promise. The council, it's proposed that the council service standards are published on all necessary platforms.
Oh, thank you. Yes, sorry. So anywhere that there are paper documentation, we would have as much as the information we can put on there, depending on what document that would be.
And what I'm trying to get at is how would our residents in more remote parts of the district know what our promise is going to be if they're not on the internet? Maybe one way you could do that is parishes have notice boards. Maybe we could ask parishes to pull them up.
Yep, thank you. That's noted.
Oh yeah, there was a On 2.10, on to the third dot down, a decrease in complaint escalation and a decrease in avoidable contact, such as those resulting from lack of communication. Doesn't quite make sense. So what I would maybe to say is get rid of the first part and have a decrease in avoidable contact, such as those resulting from a lack of communication. Seems to make more sense.
Yep, I'll take that point. It's kind of doubling up on the same point made there, so that's noted, thank you.
Yeah, we'll do that. And, Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Chairman. While you're trying to find your next question, sorry, going back to 2.6, a few wards have got rural, especially in the east. In fact, 90% I think are rural up there, that bit. So we really do need engagement with the parishes on this. Like Councillor Efty has said, down in Foulness, we've also got the problems in some parts of Fanbridge, some parts of Paglesham, haven't really got any internet. So it's an issue. So we really need to get I know there's not many people in Foulness, and I know there's not many residents in Paglesham, but they are our residents and they do pay the council tax, so they should have the same consideration as people in Rayleigh Town or Rochester Town. So really need a good communication, because I don't really want my residents, when I go to a parish meeting, to be told, we didn't know anything about this. So, and I know out there, because I've been into a meeting, they didn't even know South Street was closing. So, I mean, you know, we've got to get our communication right. So regardless of these promises, let's get the basics right, please. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. I've just got one more, which actually is a little bit about South Street closing. On our cards that we have, the postal address is still South Street. I don't know how that's going to work. Is there going to be a post forwarding? Because that could last up to 4 years if people don't go through their cards very fast, or the cards have to be changed.
Can I take that,
Yeah,
Chair, because
thank
I'm
you.
part of that organisation plan. Yet we are having everything forwarded on so that actually the post office, when they receive it, anything gets forwarded on to the proper address. However, I understand at the moment we collect the mail from the post office, so the mail that comes to us is actually collected and then we take it to where we want to open up. So the mail that comes in, still if it has Rochford District Council on it, it goes into that bag, we collect it, I understand, and take it on. What we're making sure is that we continue to collect mail from South Street for a short while, but then redirect people who turn up with it, make sure there's a map on the front of the town hall at the moment, South Street, to direct them where the new site is in the library, where posts can be collected again by our receptionists and put on. And just one other thing, would it be worth addressing, is it the 100 Club, which is the parish councils, I believe, a group?
Rochford 100.
Rochford 100. About some of the changes that we're doing on South Street, so that may make them aware, the parish councils, which we can organise.
Yeah, suggest you write to the chairman, which is Councillor Marriott.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, members, any other questions? Sorry, Councillor Booth.
Thank you, Chair. My point's a linguistic point, really. On 2.3, it states that the customer promise is underpinned by the 4 commitments. The 4 commitments are: we promise to be open and honest, we promise, we promise, we promise. So therefore, actually, we've got 5 promises. I think linguistically, for it to be correct, we have the customer promise, and then it should be we commit to be open and honest, we commit to make things easy and accessible, we commit to make it happen, and we commit to make things better. I think that would be linguistically correct.
Okay, you want to say that a little bit slower so they can catch that, or?
I think they got it.
You got it? Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm proposing that we change those 2, we commit, and then that would follow on Appendix 1 as well. So we're very clear what our promise is, and we're very clear about what our commitments are.
Okay, so I think we've got 3 recommendations there in total. One to change the customer to resident, and one, yeah, and one for the change of language for the promises.
in recommendation 1, you'll be agreeing to change customer promise to residence promise. That is what the chair has just moved, which needs to be seconded. And obviously the committee.
Okay, so it's been seconded, so we take a vote on that. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Have we got any other recommendations there? No, the others were just, that's fine. Councillor Shaw.
I think you asked it, but I don't think we got the answer. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at my cards, and mine are all right, but some Councillor Simon Wotton's isn't. It says carer of Rochester District Council, council offices, South Street. So will members be getting new cards to give out to our residents when we go for surgeries, meet them in the street? I mean, mine just says my own home address, which I've got removed, so I most probably got the same. So we do need new cards for all members. Can that be please looked at? Thank you.
Greg.
Certainly, we'll take that back. We'll work with the team, and then we'll need to communicate with members about that and organise that.
And it's also Jonathan Stevens as well on the back. So we've all got the same problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Anything else? Councillor Booth.
I'm just wondering, do we need another recommendation about making the changes from promise to commitments or not?
Claire, do we need?
You could put a recommendation to change the Appendix A to say under we promised to change to commit.
Do that, okay. I'm happy to second that.
Yeah, that's fine. You pick that up.
So-
Yeah, that's fine.
Go to a vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, I think that's everything on that item, isn't it? Thank you. Right, so item 8. Review of Rochford's corporate peer challenge, scope prior to committee approval. We will now consider the report of the Director of Policy and Transformation, providing the committee with the opportunity to make any recommendations on the proposed scope and process before it is presented to the Strategy, Finance and Policy Committee for approval. Mr. Campbell, do you have anything to add to the report?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing really to add. You summed it up very well. We've got the peer challenge that is going to happen on the 31st of March next year. Before you is the scope that is going to the Strategy Committee for you to make any recommended changes to that. All I would say is the peer challenge, before they turn up, they will get a document that is presented from us that tells them all about the authority, what we're doing moving forward. It is based on, as you can see in there, under 1.4, local priorities and outcomes, organisation, place, governance, financial planning and management, and capacity for improvement. They're the 5 key strands that usually fit through the peer challenge, and we'll be following that method as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any recommendations and proposals by members will need to be seconded and voted on at the end of the debate, and actual comments will be taken into account. These will be considered at the next available meeting of the Strategy and Finance Committee. So I think we go to any questions. Councillor Booth.
I'm just wondering if it'd be appropriate to have a similar appendix as for the work plan to make suggestions from members to the chair and to the director regarding foci for the review.
Greg?
Sorry, Chair, I didn't quite get the for
the, am I right in thinking that what's happening is we're being assessed, reviewed, there's a scope, an audit, whatever we choose to call it, from whatever profession we're from. I hope we don't say Ofsted, that would terrify me. But is it that kind of process we're engaging with?
Greg?
Thank you. Yes, it's actually the Local Government Association, so the LGA. They do this up and down the country. They are professionals from within local government. They are members. Some members. The team is made up of members and officers, professionals. They will come in and they will scrutinise the work we're doing in an environment that is open, challenging but friendly in a professional manner. And then they provide an action plan at the end of that is discussed with Rochford officers and the leader and deputy leader. And at the end of it, they present something to us, which is this is the action plan that we've got moving forward. And it is the LGA that do this on our behalf.
Thank you. Chair, can I just ask? So therefore, does this committee provide lines of inquiry for that process, or is it purely against some criteria and competencies that the LGA have?
Ms Campbell?
So the lines of inquiry are those 5 that we've put forward. However, if you have some recommendations of things that should be added into the scope to consider, they would then go forward as part of the report to the strategy committee to say, we think this should be included in the peer challenge.
Okay. And that was my point, Greg. I thought a template similar for the one for the work plan might give us a mechanism to do so.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't got that. So I think it's at the lines of inquiry. This is how they set it out. We can change it. And actually, once it's agreed, we could put something down that would help and ease and understand how they're going to take that process on and what they're going to be looking at. Would that help?
Can I come back?
Councillor Booth, yes.
So it sounds like we're passive in this rather than proactive. We have it done unto us and we're not dictating anything that we would wish them to look at as the Scrutiny and Performance Committee.
Greg?
No. So if you want to recommend something that goes into this, into the scope of what they want to, of what you want them to look at, you can recommend that now. Then obviously if the strategy committee take that on and add it in, then we can add it, because this scope was designed with the LGA, with officers and with the leader and deputy leader of the council. So it was a bit of a design together.
Councillor Booth?
So we're making those choices this evening, or can we reflect on it and make those choices over the next couple of weeks?
Greg?
So the report is before you tonight. The recommendation, if you want, because I'm not too sure, and I'll look across at my colleagues, the publication of the strategy committee, which is for the 24th of September, would be going out Wednesday next week. So we've got Wednesday, so the report would go out on Wednesday next week. So if the recommendation of this group is to provide any further lines of inquiry before Wednesday next week, and then the chair's happy, if that's how you're happy to process it, we take those inquiries on, we'll add them into the report that goes forward to the strategy committee.
I'm happy with that. If you want to do that, give you a little bit more time to look at the document, come up with any lines of inquiry.
Sorry, Chair, could you just repeat that?
I say I'm quite happy for that to happen. So if you want to get back to Greg with any updates you want to make to it, give you a little bit more time to have a look at it and understand it.
Yes, I think it'd be appropriate I run that through you, Chair.
Yeah, that's fine.
First, in the first instance. Yeah, but I certainly have some thinking going on at this moment in time.
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw?
If recommendations are going to be given by Councillor Booth, I think he's got to put it to all members of this committee. So we can all look and see I mean, I'm not going to put my hand up and say, yes, I agree with any recommendations any councillor's done unless I see them. I'm not prepared to do that, Chair.
Okay, Greg.
So if it's got to be in by Wednesday, which, you know, it's like doing any call-in, say, if Councillor Booth can send it to us on by Tuesday night or Tuesday evening, then we can have a look at it and say yes or no. But I'm not happy and I don't feel comfortable by letting a councillor, it doesn't matter who it is, putting recommendations forward to go to the LGA, who are a recognised body that do this every year or whenever. I'd like to see as a committee, what we're going to be proposing.
I think one of the recommendations doesn't go to straight to the LGA, it goes to the strategy. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just come in there? Yeah, so if Councillor Booth put some ideas forward, some recommendations. It needs this whole committee in this forum to vote on them. So you need to come back and debate them to make part of that report that will go to that committee. Yeah, so it's all time sensitive, unfortunately, for you.
By Wednesday.
But call another meeting tomorrow night.
So I think that in honesty is unlikely to happen, isn't it?
Unlikely, yeah.
Yeah, we can't ask for an email you confirming those recommendations that you're putting forward. It has to be voted on and debated.
Okay, sorry about that. Councillor Cripps.
Yeah, within the write-up 1.6, there's a sort of fairly definite steer here. Before the team arrive, the LGA team arrive, Rochford Council will prepare a position statement. This will provide a clear brief and steer to the peer team on local contexts and areas of focus for them. It is an opportunity for us, Rochford Council, to set out the key issue, challenges and current thinking in relation to the CPC core themes. So bearing in mind this doesn't happen until March next year, there would appear to be time if you want to influence what 1.6 says when the time comes, when you brief them. So taking your point, if there's some other aspects you want to put in that could get in that briefing there, and there would appear to be time to do that because they're not going to arrive for quite a while yet. So,
Councillor Booth.
Sounds like an excellent first template to be filled out for the work plan for us to come back and revisit that the thing that has just been explained to us for 1.6 as well. We could, over the next few meetings, begin to formulate that and have a view to that. And I totally agree with Councillor Shaw. It shouldn't be any one person. That's why I said I believed it should go through you as chair. In this situation, it should be a joint effort.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Booth. I feel like the word working party might be coming up here. So maybe we could look at setting up a working party to, if that's okay, for the 1.6 for next year, come up with some ideas. So I think that'll formalise it more than just having an ad hoc.
You can do that, but you've got to obviously work out the scope. And
Yeah.
for any working group, what you want to discuss, the membership scope. So you need another report coming back to say a peer review working group. But Greg, you might want to come back on that.
Councillor Webb.
My thought really is looking through the scope of the 5 areas that they've got. As a group, is there anything that is glaringly obvious that is missing from there, bearing in mind on page 3, where you read that Councillor Newport, Jonathan Stevenson, Paul Birkinshaw and Kirsty have already met to discuss this. So they've already gone through what they want the report to do. They've outlined 5 clear areas of work. I can't see anything obvious that they've missed. Councillor Booth, you must have picked up on something that you feel has been missed, or you wouldn't be raising it in this way. Is there something that you feel has been missed that we could discuss now? Because if it needs to be taken away, I don't think it warrants a subgroup to be set up, but maybe it does warrant coming back to the next meeting of this committee with suggestions, as Councillor Cripps has said, to then feed into the report or the visit in March.
Is that a more sensible idea, Claire?
Yeah, I think what you're doing, this is probably scrutinising something that you want to put recommendations going through to the next thing. So I don't necessarily think you don't necessarily need to put a working group together. I don't think.
Okay.
I just think you need to, as a committee, put your views forward, your recommendations, they get agreed here, and then they won't be part of the statement that goes in front of the LGA peer review challenge.
Okay. I did actually have a recommendation for it, which was it discusses a little bit later in the report, but it does not. One of our aims was identity. Who are we as a council? It says the LGA come back to us and tell us who we are, but I think we should be telling the LGA who we think we are, because we've got towns, we've got villages. It's such a diverse district, so I think that could be a recommendation to go near the identity of the council.
Yeah, I mean, it's down to you as a committee to agree what recommendations you want to move on. That could be one of them. I would say certainly in the statement, that could be one of the recommendations to firmly kind of say in that statement, the identity of Rochford from one end to the other with all the parishes, the towns that are involved, and just we make sure they understand what that identity is.
Okay, so that might be a recommendation if people agree. I've got some other little bits as well, of course. Yeah, that's identity there. Okay, when on 5 processes, can summary be maybe a 1 page? Because if it's going to be published on our website and other places, people will look at a document that's maybe 15, 16 pages long and get bored and lost with it. So summary of no more than page and a half, 2 pages. It might be a very brief summary, but maybe that could be asked for.
So just a summary of the scope or a summary of the final outcome. Sorry, just to be clear.
Both.
Both.
Why not?
I'm sure we can do both. I mean, the final outcome the LGA provide, we have to publish that.
Yeah.
We agree that when we go into this.
We have no
this work.
choice, yeah.
But I'm sure we can do a summary that probably there will be some kind of summary because they'll be reported back to committee, the actions and the outcome, because we have to.
All right, and again on page 6, a little bit further up the page, LGA processes and peer team. Is there any reason why it specified a Lib Dem leader, or could they just put our names in a hat and draw one out?
So
Greg?
those are they are offered to us, so they identify someone who represents the leading group across the council at Rochford. So at the moment it's Lib Dem, so they've identified a Lib Dem leader to come across and work here to have a look at what's going on. There is also an independent leader who's identified in there, so it's trying to get a balance of it for this organisation as much as possible, including that when we look for a chief exec peer, we will look for someone who has worked across 2 authorities, so they have experience and they can provide us with valuable experience and challenge.
Thank you. And on page 7, on the final, I'd read it because it's easier in context. On the final day of the peer team will deliver verbal feedback, including key recommendations to a selected audience agreed with the council. The audience should include a leader, chief executive. It said cabinet, we're not cabinet. Yeah, so I think there needs to be chairs or something in there. Members and members of senior management team. Beyond this, the LGA encourages the council to adopt an inclusive approach and invite opposition group leaders as appropriate too. Why would they not be expected to be invited because we're part of the council and this is done every 5 years? So the makeup of the council could change every couple of years. So surely it's relevant to all political parties and groups. So why is it an inclusive approach? I find that a little bit hard.
All I will say is that the peer challenges I've been involved in, the opposition group and members have always been invited. I'm not sure if that's their standard wording or their standard text, and it just kind of comes across that way. But it is about being open, transparent. So I'd expect that in the same way that any other council kind of opens it up to that final day.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I sort of remember the last peer review that happened, and it was just like selected group members. How the members of the council chosen to be interviewed? Is it just going to be random out of a hat, or will people be nominated?
So usually they set a criteria, the LGA peer team that come over, they identify groups that they would want to talk to, whether stakeholders, internal, external, officers, and then it would be opposition, usually the leaders of each of the groups that are there, and they will talk to all of the groups. So it's not just one group. They will identify the leaders and potentially deputies, depends on those groups, but it's just not siloed to the leading members or the leading administration. It is the opposition as well, so they get a complete view across the council.
Can I just come back? Will they take into account the geography of the district, hopefully?
Can I suggest then that becomes one of your recommendations, that when they do that work, that they take into account when doing interviews, that they do ask to make sure they consider the geography of the district?
Okay, councillor Booth.
Yes, my thinking around is something I've been thinking about and sort of inquiring, is about the whole issue of safeguarding and our role as councillors in safeguarding. I know lots of it is county council level, but there are aspects of it, I believe, that should be district level, and I'm finding it very hard to get information around that. So I'm just wondering if where it's got governance and culture, that to me is somewhere where safeguarding could be included in that, including safeguarding, because I think that's one of our prime responsibilities, legal and moral, is protecting the most vulnerable in society, whether that's children or vulnerable adults. And I would very much like to see governance and culture, including safeguarding, there from a very personal viewpoint. But I think it also protects us as a council as well.
Could you put that as a recommendation?
Would like to, Chair, if that's appropriate.
Yeah, I think we're seconded for that. Councillor Shaw. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so how many recommendations come out? I've lost count.
Last one we didn't hear from you, Councillor FD, that's the one we missed. But the one that's in the report.
So the geography, wasn't it?
Sorry, can you clarify your recommendation too, Councillor FD?
For the geography, the district to be taken into account. And the first one was identity. I think that was the only. Yeah, so it's geography, safeguarding and identity.
Okay, so I'll say that recommendation 1. Recommendation 2 is that the LGA, take into consideration the geography, identity and safeguarding within their peer review. Yeah?
Yeah, that's fine. So it'd just be as one recommendation.
I
so-
think you can just do it as one recommendation, to be honest.
Okay, so.
And as I've done a sort of peer review before, things that you've brought up, like regarding geography and that, they will do Teams meetings. It won't be face-to-face all the time. They will do meetings with other chief execs, maybe at Southend and bordering areas. So a lot of it can be done on Teams. So they will consider that. And if we do need to do face-to-face, then we will consider regarding using other locations.
I'm sorry, I didn't make myself complete. I can't make myself completely clear. The geography that I mean is, again, the district is very diverse with small villages, towns.
Yeah.
So we don't know who we're going to get who's going to do the peer review. We don't know what council they're going to come from. They might come from an urban council.
Yeah, you might get someone
So
that's rural.
it's
You might get someone
explaining what the differences are in different parts of the district.
Yeah. No, and that should come in the
Complete
summary. That should
understanding.
be in the summary. It should break down what the district looks like. Yeah.
Oh, it reminds me, the other one was a single or page and a half summary.
And that's the report back, isn't it?
Yeah. Councillor Cripps.
Yeah, actually, when you get into the attachment on the back, there would appear to be a lot of opportunity to input there anyway. I don't disagree with, going with the safeguarding as a specific right now, but it says to help the peer team gain an in-depth understanding of the local issues. So that's your far east, remote, versus built up area and so on. Before their on-site activity, the PCN will work with RDC to develop an information and data pack. The most important aspect of this pack is the position statement prepared by the council. So there's clearly a vehicle there to actually put some shape to it. It's just a question of where you want to fit performance in. If that's what you want to do, you can book a place in there if you will, because they go on to say they intend to interview to get to that point. They're going to interview officers and members. Well, you could simply ask them to involve the scrutiny committee in that preliminary position statement exercise. And then by then you've got time, you've given yourself time to think of issues that you might want to plug in there. Your interpretation, if you like, of the position statement. You need to say safeguarding, for example. We think that's important or whatever. So I think there's plenty of opportunity there. Given the timescale and that sequence of events, they're going to talk to us first before they firm up on what their actual agenda is.
That's a good point, Councillor Cribbs, actually, because what Councillor Rafferty said about the geography, the identity and safeguarding, that could be in that summary. It doesn't need to be a recommendation.
We just need
That's
to
what
plug
you
ourselves
feel needs to
into
be.
being part of that position statement. I
Yeah,
think.
it needs to be in that position statement. And at the end of the day, the other recommendation that Daniel Rafferty said about the report being a page and a half. That's
Summary.
just the summary. That's just a request that we can ask the LGA on that. So I think we're probably getting too tied up on these certain areas when really they can go in that statement and saying we are a very diverse district. We have very rural, very built up areas, and you can just add that into that summary.
Okay, so I think what we need to put in there is the Scrutiny and Performance Committee would like to be part of the.
I take the LGA will ask to speak to the Scrutiny Committee. They will. I know they will.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so Councillor Shaw.
I have actually been interviewed on one of these panels, and they do ask in-depth questions about where you various things. So it's not just what your name is, where'd you come from, finished. It is quite in-depth. I had one that was in person, as it turned out, but it just doesn't matter. It's all friendly, and they ask various questions. So I think all what we've discussed tonight will certainly be covered when this comes in, when they come and talk to us. They're all friendly. They're not out to catch us, and there's no wrong answer. If we give an answer, it's no wrong answer, as long as we put the facts over correctly.
Yeah, no, that's correct, Councillor Shaw, and it's an opportunity for you to have, if you've got any concerns or things that the council could be done better, or training is required, or this is not working, that's when you can do that in your interview, and quite a few of you will be interviewed.
Councillor Booth.
Yeah, I appreciate we'll be heavily involved in the medium and end outcomes as well, but I think a key aspect of the scrutiny committee is to scrutinise the actual position statement as well, and to understand the thinking of those more senior than myself that have formulated that position statement. So I would like to see an opportunity for us as a committee to be able to do that.
Okay, so we've got, I think we need to put the recommendation in as the Scrutiny and Performance Committees have an opportunity to talk to them, because it's not in the statement at the moment. It's been missed off. So we're not in there, so I think that needs to be put in there.
So can I just check on these recommendations? Because I actually think that recommendation 2, talking about the geographic and the identity and safeguarding, is not actually a recommendation. It will come up in the summary. So I think maybe we need to say that recommendation 2, that this Scrutiny and Performance Committee scrutinise the statement before published to the LGA with any recommendations. I think that's the way around it all, and that will cover all that information that you've just said about, as I say, safeguarding, geography and all things like that. And I'm not necessarily sure about the report being a page and a half. I think that's just a request we can do for the LGA. So I would actually remove that recommendation, but tighten up recommendation 2 to say that the summary comes here to the Scrutiny Committee before being submitted to the LGA.
Okay, but again, this is not going to the LGA, this is going to the next meeting of the Strategy and Finance.
Yeah.
So they take our recommendations or don't.
Yeah.
Totally agree with you, those first 3 recommendations can be wrapped up into coming back to us before it goes out to the LGA. But again, there's no mechanism in the actual report from the LGA in the 5 things that the leader and deputy leader and the officers put in there that involves the Scrutiny and Performance Committee as one of the groups of people they talk to. So I'd like that to be in
Do you
there
want
as
that
a
firmed up,
recommendation.
because I think they will do that.
It will definitely do that, but if you want it as a recommendation now, it's not going to do any harm to say that actually, as one of the requests is that they ensure that they interview this committee. So we put that in there. They definitely would anyway,
Will
but
do
to firm
anyway.
it up and make sure that it happens, we can do that.
Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Chair. We can request that the report comes to scrutiny before it's published, but we can't dictate it because it is their document and they're coming in to do it. So it's not a recommendation, it's got to be a request because it is their document. We cannot request it.
Yeah, I'm not saying that their report is just a page and a half. I'm saying
They
they
won't
could
be
do
able
a
to do that,
summary
Chair.
after it. Okay, fair enough.
If you look at other LGA documents that come out, which come out on a regular basis, where they have various reports, and I think most of us get them.
Usually about 70 odd pages long.
Yeah, exactly. But there is a index that you don't have to read everything in it. It's what's pertinent to yourself. So, you know, unfortunately, these documents are lengthy, but I don't think we can't dictate. It is.
It's only a request.
Yeah, it can be a request, but we can't be angsty if we get it ignored. That's what I'm
Well, no,
just
if we
trying
don't,
to
you
say,
don't
yeah.
ask, you don't get.
Oh, no, there's no point, no harm in asking, but I think we need to put it out there and have it recorded that we will most probably, that request will get ignored because they've got a set format that has worked very well in the past. Thank you.
Okay. Right then, so what recommendations are we down to?
Scrutiny Performance Committee to review is it personal statements, sorry, councillor Cripps. What's it referred to as? The summary. The summary, what's it referred to?
What I read out here, yeah.
Yeah,
It's under the preparation and engagement section where it makes it clear that RDC have got to develop an information and data pack. And for me, that becomes the position statement. So it's that we need to plug into, not try and change the LGA standard format. They're here to be, if you like, independently looking at it. We can't start to dictate to them how they do it, other than when we present the position statement, which says it. And I think the 5 headings give you so much leeway room there to bring almost any subject you want to bring up in that. So the bit we've got to iron out is how the committee get their input into the position statement, which is going to be produced by RDC. That's our opportunity.
so you're saying it's the Scrutiny Performance Committee to review the position statement before the submission to the LGA.
I would think that's probably the easy route, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
happy with that?
happy with that one.
Right, okay, so we're
And,
good.
and the other one?
Was, I've written so many down.
The other one was that we become one of the people that the committee.
Oh, yeah, the
is
committee,
one-
yeah, that's not a problem. So, so recommendation 3 is that the Scrutiny Performance Committee undertake an interview regarding the peer review challenge that you are taken. You will be, you'll be involved, you are involved in the process, you want to be involved in the process. We'll just do some wording on that.
Okay, so we've got 3 recommendations there. Are we happy to take them on block?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so we did have a seconder, Councillor Cripps. And all those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you very much. Right then, Claire, finished
Sorry.
writing?
Yeah, I'm writing, I'm just going to quickly rewrite, but the general scope's there, so.
Thank you.
I know it's all over the place, sorry.
Okay, I think we're on item 9, all right? Yep. Right, the One Team Transformation Programme, strategic partnership with Brentwood Borough Council, Q1 and Q2 update. We will now consider the report of the Director of Policy and Transformation, providing the committee with year 3 Q1 and Q2 updates from February to July 2024. Mr. Campbell, do you have anything to add to the report?
Thank you, Chair. Just to say, obviously, we're seeing Q1 and Q2 for year 3 because obviously there were some elections in between time and there was no committees. So we're seeing 2 at once, just in case someone thought we weren't reporting regularly enough. In this, it just kind of highlights the work that has been ongoing and that we're now adopting a new method to undertake a consideration of the transformation plan. So we're doing them working with the services, identifying where we can put resources to make sure we can deliver on those transformation plans over the next 36 months. I'm
Thank
happy
you.
to take any questions.
Any
Thank you, Chair.
questions? Councillor Webb.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, my question is, I guess, just looking at points 1.4, then 1.6. Obviously, there's a lot of work that's been done so far in terms of the One Team transformation programme, and there's further work that's being proposed. Almost feels like there's sort of a slight mission creep coming in here. The original proposal was the chief exec would be shared and then senior management team. And we seem to be going further and further through the layers of both local authorities. For me, there sort of feels like there's a point at which will this process stop? Will it come to an end? Or are we just going to keep going until every single officer is a member of the One Team? I'm thinking, say, in terms of a parking official, parking attendant. It would seem natural for them to work either in Rochford or Brentwood, because I want them to be giving out tickets in one or the other places, not driving between both Brentwood and Rochford. So is there a point at which this process will stop? Has that been identified yet? As I don't see that within this document.
Greg.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Webb. Absolutely, I think your example hits the nail on the head. There are going to be areas that just will not sit within a One Team. You wouldn't have refuse, you know, for example, going across the one district to the borough and likewise. Transformation is always an evolving thing, shouldn't stop anyway, and we will always look where we can to improve things, whether that's just within Rochford District Council itself, or whether it's actually between the two authorities, or even working with other authorities as well, or other groups. So it won't necessarily stop. There isn't a marker where it does stop or doesn't stop, but we look at the services, so the transformation plans that are put into place, they will not identify things like you've identified there, Councillor Webb, which is the parking attendants, the refuse, the countryside management. They're unlikely, you know, we may share some equipment at some point if it's necessary, but actually the sharing of that on a regular basis would be very difficult because of the mileage between, which actually keeps our sovereignty as well. But we would, where possible, where we can align processes, where we can align methods of working, we will continue to do that just to make the best of our resources, create, whether it's savings or resiliency for the two organisations, so we can better use our efficiency, our money and our resources, so we can use it better.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? I've got a couple. Sorry, Greg. Where it says One Team IT, looking down, can we add AI to that? I'd like to know our position, what we're going to do with artificial intelligence throughout the councils, if we should use it, if we can legally use it. Part of the IT.
Thank you, Chair. I do know that area are looking at IT. I mean, if I'm honest, we get bombarded with emails all the time. Come to this conference, look at this AI. AI is going to take over the world. Look what you can do. We've got to be cautious about that, especially when we're considering the data and what we're responsible for. But we are, I can assure you that we are keeping an eye on that, how it's going to improve things moving forward. So all I can say is it's a watching brief. It's not something we are not looking at or not considering.
I'm just worried about the legal implications of AI. That's what I think we need to look at before we spend money on it.
There are a lot of considerations, as I'm sure members would understand and respect, about AI data and the cost of it as well.
Okay, thank you for that. All right. Okay. On 1.8, reducing cost and creating revenue. I don't expect you to come back with an answer now, but maybe in the next report. What revenue have we created? And also 1.9, and what has been realised with the formula of the One Team? What benefits, other than cost savings of wages, have we actually got? Okay, if you'd like to come back.
Thank you, Chair. I'm now going to think on the top of my head about the same, because we reported it in the last quarter. We did the annual report, which included the cost savings and the benefits, but a number of other benefits about resiliency, working together, bringing processes. Some of the ones I can, off the top of my head, are the procurement process. So where an example at the moment is the leisure procurement process that we're going through, brought that together, working together to get the best out of that, efficiency, cost, everything like that. So there's one example. I can get the report out again and have a look at it and bring that to you. But if I list them again in the next time I do a quarter, then it just brings it to life.
Yeah, so I've just come back. I sort of remember the report. It was about, we saved about, sort of Brentwood saved about 2/3 on what we did on wages. But the other said, I think you went into saying that this is what, you didn't actually give us any figures or anything. So I'm not expecting you to come out with the answers tonight, but maybe put something in the next report actually gives us something tangible we can actually understand. Thank you. 1.14, further this year's staff away day, concentrate on wellbeing, and there was a great success with positive feedback from those who attended. Just wondering what percentage of the staff across the councils attended. Again, I don't expect you to come back with that now. So it might be interesting, because going back to wellbeing, and Councillor Booth mentioned in the last item, we've got to keep our staff's wellbeing at utmost in our thoughts.
I will say that I will get a figure for you, or a closer figure, but there's colleagues around the table here who will kind of support that it was well represented from most of the services that across the two authorities, but in the morning and the afternoon. It was a really good popular event.
Thank you.
But I will get that figure, sorry, Chair.
Right, looking at the Appendix A, which gives us breakdown of which staff member is employed by which council. This was asked for at the last Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting. Thanks for the update. There seems to be 83 to 32, if I remember correctly, reading the report. Sorry, there's 83 total. Yeah. What's the hiring policy of where they're going to be hired for now? Because if the councils do divorce at some point in the future, one council will be greatly disproportionate officers left than another. Good, come back to me, please.
Yeah, so if they are being employed under Rochford, they still remain under Rochford, and likewise for Brentwood. If it's under a one team, then consideration of those figures will be taken into account. Certainly in the tiers 1, 2, 3 and 4 now, where the distribution is, so we make sure we even that up. When employers are employed next time under one team, that will be, those figures will be looked at to even the distribution out better.
Thank you. And last but not least, the table right at the back, the appendix, which I can hardly read, so I pulled it on my phone to make it bigger. There's a lot of red in there, Greg, at the moment, which is, remembers this appendix here. And we seem to be moving down or stationary with just one moving up. So I hope we're keeping an eye on that, and what sort of plans have we got in place, because plans on there seem a little bit wishy-washy, just keeping an eye on it. Greg, would you like to come back?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. These are the high risks that were still high at the moment, but what we've done is we've got the managing actions that reduce them. So they're the things that we're keeping an eye on. They're the things that we're putting into place. They're the mitigations to make sure that we reduce them so they don't come to fruition and they become issues. So that is what we're doing, and we review them regularly.
Do they go to audit committee to be reviewed? Because members would see them more often than each quarter coming here.
These, I will have to check. We get the risk register, the corporate and the strategic risk register. This feeds it into that. I don't know if this one, I'm looking across at Claire, whether this risk
Claire wants to come
register
in.
specific goes to that committee.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously all risk normally goes to audit committees. So we just need to make sure that that is picked up and that does go to the audit and governance committee. I mean, have you published anything like that before, the risks? Not like that. Okay, we'll pick that up because they should go to audit and governance.
Councillor Cripps.
Yeah, on the risk situation, the third one down, I think, I'd just like to say a few words for the officers, really.
Yeah.
Because whilst the one team cuts the bill for both council, those particular individuals like directors or corporate roles where they're covering Brentwood and Rochford, puts them under a lot of pressure, and that risk there of that impacting those officers, I think that's very real there. I mean, even as a councillor with my work, I start with a bit of paper in the morning and I write down all the things I'm going to do today, and I never get to the bottom. And sometimes the next day when you do your new list, there's more important things than the ones that were left, and they stay at the bottom, don't they? And I can see this in, we've just had a hectic few weeks with the MPPF review and the reply to the consultation from the new government that's come through, and the officers have pedal like mad to actually get through that 106 questions, highly technical questions. So I think that mitigation there, keeping an eye, those people particularly need to be kept an eye on in terms of how they're coping with it, because I can see, people under a lot of pressure. So I just like a bit of a shout for the officers, really. They need to be watched,
Yeah, please don't take it wrong. Got no problem with the officers. They do a great job. That's why I asked about the well-being. Got to keep an eye on this. Make sure the officers don't get too much under pressure and too stressed. Thank you. Right, members, I think this report is for noting, if I remember correctly. So is that noted?
Noted.
Thank you. Right then. Item 10, membership of outside bodies, partnership arrangements and working group. We will now consider the report of the Joint Acting Director of Governance setting out a review of the outside bodies and partnership arrangement to be undertaken by the working group and to agree the membership of the working group. Ms Mayhew, do you have anything to let us know?
Thank you, Chair. Just a few comments. I just noticed on the recommendation, it should say the working group appointed should actually say the paragraph should be 1.5 and not 1.4. Since the report was published, we have had nominations from the group leaders who they would like to appoint onto this working group. We've got Councillor Marriott from the Conservatives. We have now got Councillor Richard Linden from the Lib Dems and Councillor Mike Webb for the Long and Line group. No appointments been made by RDR, and I see that's able to stay like that. So if everyone's happy, we'll just take the 3 nominations as they are for that working group.
Can I just ask a question? As with most working groups, if there's no nominee by party, they can't join later. Because once the group is
No,
started,
when we agreed this,
that's it.
that is it.
That's it. Okay, so everyone understands that.
That's it.
Okay, any questions, members? Councillor Cripps.
Yeah, just a little bit of a heads up for me, really. I'm new to this. There's a lot of people dealing with a lot of organisations. Presumably, they've got to collate all the meetings they go to, because at the end of the day, to do a review of it, we're going to need all that information. That comes forward automatically, does it? That's if they take this role on, they know they've got to come
I'll
forward.
explain the process to you, Councillor Cripps. However, looking at it, the working group will get together. We will do a consultation with the outside organisation, saying what benefits it has, the partnership working, ask how many times they meet. Do they think the membership is too big, too small? What benefit does it have for the organisation and also the council? And we'll also do the same consultation with the members to ask them, do they think this is a benefit to the council? Obviously, work around anything that's trustee involved, because that can actually put members in a position where they could be involved in insolvency, if it's bankruptcy, if they're taken on as a trustee. We're doing a bit of a means test, make sure that you're being appointed to that outside body for the right reasons. So what we do is we collect that information, We will review it as a working group. We'll see what is a benefit, and we might have to make some decisions and saying, is that outside body really a benefit to us? Do we need to appoint to it? We might do this work and go, we still want all them outside bodies. Fair enough, we've done our work, and then we'll say we'll review it again in 2 years. That's how it will work.
Okay, any more questions? Councillor Shaw.
Just one, sanctuary housing, they, whoever's on the committee, do not come back and put a report in. Because all our papers, well, when I was on it, and I know it still happens, on the meeting, all the papers have to be collected in, so we can't give them out because they're private. It used to happen, and Lauren Stretch don't have any meetings, but the housing associations will have a meeting with yourself, the Director of Housing, and then we used to have Louisa Moss, who then would put out a report to all councillors. Now, I can't remember the last time we had a report from our housing director. I'm not saying, because you're new, obviously, Lauren, but since Louisa Moss left, we've never had one come out to us all. So perhaps that could be noted, that we could start getting these out. I obviously knew what was happening because I was on the committee. So, but other members wouldn't. But it wasn't, we were always told when we went on the committee, we had to sign that we wouldn't give out the papers. It would be down to any housing association to talk to the housing director, or director of housing. I'll reverse your title, sorry.
And we'd like to come back.
Yeah, just to let you know, so I do still meet with Sanctuary and I do get a copy of those reports, so I also see them. Sanctuary Housing are doing a newsletter quarterly for councillors that come out. I've never seen the report that was done by my predecessor, and nor have I been asked to produce one. That's definitely something I can take back to the I'll probably get the title of this wrong, but the Communities and Housing Committee, because there is now a committee for that, to see. Obviously, Sanctuary, I know there's obviously a special reason it's Sanctuary, just they are an independent body to us. So I can absolutely take recommendations, but they are essentially like any other housing association. So it's not really for me to put a report together on their performance. But I can take recommendations. And like I said, we've introduced the newsletter. The communication between us, as it is with other housing associations, is continuing. And I'm absolutely happy to look at any suggestion of taking anything that goes forward that will be helpful to members to have.
Thank you. Any other questions? No?
Just mention, sorry, Councillor Effley.
Okay.
Also, just mention in the terms of reference, if we get a outside body that's interested in having an appointed member from RDC, it will have to go through that working group before they actually say, I'm going to recommend that we do want to appoint, but it won't happen till the next round of the appointments made in that new municipal year. So that's the process.
Thank you for the clarification. Right then. Right, so we have a motion in front of us. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Shaw. Right then. Right, so recommendation 1, to appoint a working group to undertake a review of the outside bodies and partnership arrangements as per paragraph 1.4. Everybody in favour? Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, sorry, 1.5.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. I know.
Sorry, 1.5. Everybody take a vote on that. Everybody in favour? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. Anybody against? And abstentions? 1 abstention. Thank you very much. I'll be pleased to say I think that is the end of the business for tonight. Time is 8:44. Thank you very much for attending, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.